Welcome to January 2022 and in-person Project Green Garden Forums. Woohoo! I'm Linda Schreiber, filling in for Connie Gabe, who had planned a winter break. We hope our forums inspire you. These lectures offer gardeners information, education, and some much-needed camaraderie during this long COVID pandemic. Before we start today, I want to thank our partner, the Iowa City Public Library, and Beth Fisher and Bond for hosting the garden forums. The library live streams these presentations, and the programs are available on the library's YouTube channel. Also want to thank the Gazette and Homegrown Iowan for their publicity to get word out about the program. Now a little commercial. Our next forum will be held February 13th with Benjamin Volk of Lincoln, Nebraska, who will address the fundamental of garden layers. This will be a virtual presentation, so sign on to the Iowa Public Library website and register for the program. Mark your summer calendars for the weekend of July 9 and 10, when Open Garden Weekends will return. The public can visit free of charge a wide selection of area gardens, and we'd like to include your garden as well. It can be small or large, formal or quirky, flowers or vegetables, perfectly landscaped or layered naturals. Just check the website for information, and there's a sheet at the table in the back. And a reminder, Project Green celebrated a major milestone in 2018, 50 years of service to the community. Through the years, Project Green has funded more than $2.2 million in community projects, including Project Green Garden, a public garden at the city-owned Ned Ashton House, 820 Park Road. Our all-volunteer effort includes parks, roadsides, riverfronts, medians, and public school grounds. We couldn't do it without you. Please consider making an investment in Project Green's community beautification efforts. You can support our nonprofit organization with your time, your talent, and your financial contributions. Your donations are greatly appreciated and may be made to our endowment fund at the Community Foundation of Johnson County or via the City of Iowa City. You're also invited to get your hands dirty at Project Green Garden at the Ned Ashton House. Now please take a moment to silence your cell phones. Today we'll begin with a presentation followed by a break and then a question and answer period, and we'll conclude with a drawing for door prizes. You can fill out, you can leave your questions at the front table, or there are paper in the back where you can write out your questions and turn them in during the break. I'm very excited about today's program. It's a pleasure to introduce Natasha Sotos, Executive Director of the Friends of Vander Veer Botanical Park, who will share the history and highlights of this beautiful Iowa treasure. The 33-acre Vander Veer Botanical Park features outdoor gardens, a nationally recognized rose garden, Hosta Glade, and an extensive collection of trees, some dating to the 1890s, the Grand Allée that leads to the popular stone fountain, and the Conservatory, which is noted for a tradition of providing gardens under glass and seasonal displays. The park is maintained by the City of Davenport Park and Recreation Department with floral displays and other initiatives funded by the Friends of Vander Veer. Natasha has been in her position since 2010. Through her leadership, the nonprofit organization has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in support. She has extensive experience in fund development, public relations, and special events management, and has worked successfully in orchestrating public-private partnership with the City of Davenport, which allows the Friends to raise funds specifically for the park's horticultural and educational initiatives while preserving the history of this Midwestern gem. Before joining the Friends of Vander Veer, Natasha worked in marketing and fundraising with Junior Achievement at the Quad Cities, the Friendly House, and Medic EMS. She's a proud graduate of the University of Iowa, and enjoys gardening and tennis. She lives in Davenport with her husband and 3 daughters, one of whom is a freshman at the U of I. Go Hawks! Please welcome Natasha Sotos.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to take off my mask while I'm up here. I'm so delighted to be here. I know I've met some of the Project Green volunteers over the years and gotten an opportunity to kind of share how the Friends does things, how Project Green does things, so that we can all learn and grow as organizations. But I've always been impressed with Project Green, so I'm excited to be here. I'm also was very fond of one of the Project Green volunteers, Max Molliston, who maybe a few of you know, but Max was on our board of directors for the Friends of Vander Veer for years and was the president of our board and just a wonderful, wonderful man. So when he moved from Davenport to Iowa City and got involved in Project Green, that just felt like you were just taking our guy, but that's all right. So, so I'm glad to be here. Just a couple of things that I'll talk about before I go into my presentation, but you know, keep your notes, keep your questions, because I'll definitely want to answer your questions. I like to do this talk with my tag-along, who's the head of horticulture for the city of Davenport, but honestly, it's a weekend and cities are different, and so he can't always accompany me. So I work for the nonprofit, the Friends of Vander Veer. We are completely separate from the city of Davenport. I do not work for the city, and I can do what I want, and I can do a presentation on a Sunday if I want to. So I'm glad to be here, but I will focus on the history, our collections, some of those things, and but I am not, you know, an official horticulturist who plants any of this. So I like to say it's magic, but it's really our team of horticulturists. So a little bit about Vander Veer. Maybe people don't know this. Even in the Quad Cities, where Vander Veer, you know, is situated right in the middle of Davenport, people don't know a lot about the history of Vander Veer. We keep working on that education as we go. But Vander Veer started as farmland, and it was up at the north end of the city. If you can imagine, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Davenport or the Quad Cities, but now Davenport extends from the river all the way up almost to I-80. But in this time period, Vander Veer was the very north end of town, and it is situated at about 20th Street, 25th Street in Davenport, so from the river up. That's where Vander Veer is, and it was the very north end of town. It was farmland. Then later, it became the Scott County Fairgrounds in 1865. And so again, it was just right at the edge of town to come to Vander Veer. So when the city purchased it in 1885 for $13,000, it really was not much. It was, you know, it was really just this odd area at the end of town. Now it is so beautiful the way that it is actually in the middle of town. And we call it an urban oasis. It is nestled right in the middle of a neighborhood. It is one large city block, 33 acres, one large city block. It is completely surrounded by sidewalk, and so that contains it entirely. So there's no fencing for it. It is a public park. It is a city park. And so it has remained that way since 1885. But they wanted something special, and they definitely got it. We have continued that legacy. They wanted a unique park patterned after Central Park in New York City. So they hired Olaf Benson, who is from Chicago, and came in to design Vander Veer. And it was originally named Central Park, modeled after New York City's gem. And ironically, you know, when I tell that story, then people always say, oh, because our park's address is Central Park. Our park is located on Central Park Avenue. And so they say, oh, well, that's why it's on Central Park, because Central Park was named for Central Park, which is now Vander Veer. So the original name of the park was Central Park. So that's a little bit about that deep history. The conservatory opened in 1897, and this is one of the first pictures of the conservatory. You know, it's really interesting to do research on our park. A lot of it was done by one of our colleagues that worked for the Friends, and she did a lot of nice research for us. But it's interesting just over the years to talk to our donors and our visitors who have all their wonderful stories, and they supply us with a lot of our history, and they donate things. And you know, this one is a postcard. I have actual pictures too, but this one is a postcard of the first conservatory. It is not the current structure, but this is the very first conservatory. Here's another picture of it with the road, and you can see some of the carpet beds already right here, but with the big blooms on top. But Vander Veer was known for its carpet beds. That was Olaf Benson's design, and we'll talk more about that. Here's a little more close-up picture. Always called gardens under glass, and here's the original garden under glass. We have really held to this tight tradition, and I really think that's what makes Vander Veer so amazing and special and unique, is this, this design that Olaf Benson came up with. And so we hold to those traditions at this park. Like I said, we call it, what else do I say? But we call it an urban oasis, and I'll tell you more about the features. But it is a city park. The city of Davenport has 50 city parks, and we're, in theory, we're just one of those city parks, but we're so much more. We are a botanic park. We don't have anything that I would call a park amenity, as far as we don't have a baseball diamond, we don't have a water fountain, we don't have a lot of garbage cans. People ask where a garbage can is. We are a botanic park. So we look much more like a botanic garden and very little like a city park. That being said, we are a wonderful oasis for people. And the middle area is a big green area in the park, and we will see people out playing Frisbee. When Pokemon was big, we'd see people walking through the park trying to find the little Pokemon characters on their phones. That's good and bad, but we have a lot going on at the park. We have musicians who stop and play. On any given day, you might hear a cello, you might hear a trumpet. We've had quartets where people are just in the park, resting, taking it in, and enjoying that peace. And so we have that commitment to keep that park that way. It's been interesting over the years, the suggestions that come into the park for things we could do with this big green open space. Nothing. We don't want to do anything with that space. It's meant to be a botanic park with a peaceful feel in the middle of the city. One comment, one of our big attractions as a side, we have many gardens throughout the park, but like I said, we also have that sidewalk that goes all the way around the park. And so we get a lot of park walkers. That is a big part of our culture in the park. If you walk around the outside, the perimeter of our park, it's just about a mile. It's not quite, it's just about a mile. So you'll see our visitors walking outside a lot, especially when it gets nice, but even in the winter. So that's kind of one of our interesting features. Maybe sometimes you'll see people walk through the park, and then there's many walkways through the park, but that perimeter really gets walked a lot, so it's kind of interesting. So the city and the Friends work together to keep this tradition. And the Friends, I work for the Friends of Vander Veer, I am the director. We are a nonprofit, and we do advocacy and fundraising. So when we see some of these projects come in, and people always have ideas, people call, I get calls every week with ideas for our park. And so we are the advocates of keeping this a botanic park, because it would be so easy to do, 1,000 different things with the park. This is a really neat building. I wish this building was still here. This is the Pavilion, and there's another pavilion too, but people talk about this one not as much. This, you can see the conservatory here in the background. There's the original conservatory. And then this was a pavilion, and they could use it for shows, parties, events. It had bathrooms, and with most of the structures in this park, eventually during the Depression, they fell into disrepair. This is one where we don't really know what happened to this building. Sometimes I wonder if that was a pavilion from when it was the fairgrounds, because it looks more open like a fairground amenity. But it actually is near the lagoon, or was near the lagoon, which is one of our main areas, and I always wish that that was still there. But now with the way we have cars and parking lots, I'm unsure of how to bring this one back, but that's always on my mind, how to bring that pavilion back, because it was so beautiful, such a neat space. Here's another view of it. So if people refer to the pavilion, if you hear that, this is the pavilion, but then there's also was a music pavilion. I'll get to that in a minute, I guess. This, our park used to have 3 little lagoons in it, 3 lagoons, and they ran all the way down the west side of the park. Now we're just down to the 1 lagoon. As over the years, things have changed. So this was one of the wells in the park. It's kind of interesting to see the pathways there. This particular path is not there quite the same, but we still have elements of this. The benches that are along there, we have new walkways now that have those same kinds of benches. Again, one of the things I love about being part of Vander Veer is how much we do play off of our own history. And even though things aren't exactly the same, they mimic it, the feel mimics it. So this is kind of a neat path to show that old well, which is no longer there. There's the old little bridge. Now, I don't have a good picture of it now, but you'll have to be on the watch because now we have a stone bridge in its place, and we're going to be doing a lot with that area of the park this summer. This was the little wooden bridge, I guess. It didn't have a name that I have seen, but it was over one of the lagoons. And like I said, 3 just kind of whittled down to 1 lagoon. This area, again, is on the west side of the park. Now our little stone bridge is kind of a bridge over nothing. It's a little bridge over just a grassy area. People like to get their pictures taken there. So now we are working on a campaign for this summer to put in a Tranquility garden there and do kind of a big daffodil bed that might look as though it was the water going under the bridge, even though we won't have water going under that bridge again. It's too difficult. One comment in anything that we're designing in our park, again, first of all, we're a public park, so we have to be able to allow anybody to enjoy our features, and we are not gated in any way. So we can't really have, the lagoon, the lagoon's always been there, thank goodness, but we can't really have these gardens that are, a child could get lost in or that someone could be unattended, because people can enter our park from all 4 sides from any area at any time, and they do. We are right on the corner by St. Ambrose, and we have St. Ambrose students coming through all the time. We're in between other schools, kids walk through a lot. So we would always have the guide of knowing that we're not a gated, charge admission, go this way, and you're safe in that space. We have to design for anybody in the city to be coming through the park. But anyway, so this is the little stone, now the stone bridge, little wooden bridge. I love these old pictures because they're just so amazing. This is the music pavilion. So there's, like I said, there's 2. There's that main pavilion and then this music pavilion. And this pavilion steals my heart. It was an amazing structure. This is the doll buggy parade that we used to have. You can see the people in their fine dresses, the little girls in their dresses, and they're pushing their doll carriages. And we have held that tradition up until a few years ago, and now we're bringing it back. But that's where I had to advocate a little bit. I said, what happened to our doll buggy parade? But we love this doll buggy parade. And we have had a fall festival event where we had it, like I said, up until maybe just 3 or 4 years ago, where we would still have our young people bring their buggy, bring their carriage, and parade around and give some prizes. But this music pavilion was really known. It's open and open on all sides. Politicians used to come, concerts used to be there, Teddy Roosevelt gave speeches there, and this is one of the amenities that we do know fell into disrepair during the Depression, and eventually they could not afford to keep up the repair on it, so it did go. And I have another really pretty picture of it. There's another nice picture of it. And so I do miss this one. About 10 years ago, we did look at a capital campaign to bring this back in a similar location to where it had been. And so we'll see. Honestly, it was in 2009, and the election had just happened, and the recession kind of started, and we said, we'll just hold for a year. We probably should not have done that, because then down the hill from us at the riverfront, down at the Mississippi, they did redo the LeClaire Park music pavilion down there. So then our grant sources said, well, now you have a duplicate project to the river project, so we really probably shouldn't have held on that one. So it's kind of a shame. We kind of lost our window. We were looking at bringing that back. So we'll see. But it's beautiful, and I felt like it let us have a place to have a stage. And now when we have things in the park, we have a drive it up bandwagon. Junior theater uses it, and our city uses it, and we do use that for a stage, and it's fine, it's fun. But obviously this would be much more classic for the kinds of things we do. But again, one of the things that we hear again and again are about how families used to love our it's and I feel like we have really held to that tradition. If you look and see all these people just out in front of the music pavilion enjoying it, it's beautiful. All dressed up. This is the lagoon that remains. If you ever, I can show you, I might have another picture of the lagoon, but I love this one because everybody can see it now, but this is, how it used to be, busy, lots of ice skaters, and if you look at it close up, you can see they're dressed nicely. I mean, it is a sign of the times that people were dressed nice to come and skate at Vander Veer. You can see the houses behind the picture. to see, again, that, I mean, we were just nestled right in the neighborhood, right in the heart of the city. As time went on, I might say this next, but as time went on, yeah, I'll talk about the Old World Gardens. Oh, I don't know. I guess I thought my slide was different. I apologize. But as time went on, the trolley cars started coming up to the north end of the park. So people rode the trolley cars, and then eventually streetcars started to come to be. So there were more ways to get to up to the Vander Veer and take part in it. But as I said, I work in fundraising, so I raise funds to put to the park. And when I talk to the donors over the years, I mean, some of the most beautiful stories I hear are about going with mom and dad and grandma and promenading through the park. So it's really neat to see some of those old pictures and see what Vander Veer has been. One of the key trademarks of our park has been our Old World Gardens. This has always been a centerpiece of the park. It still is. And again, I applaud our city's horticulture staff because over the years they have held to the traditions of the style of gardening, the style that Warder Olson put in as a landscape architect. And we have carpet beds and big blooms, I like to say, in some of them. But this is really old picture, so you're saying, oh, the quality's terrible. It is, but it's all we've got. And it really shows you these carpet beds. These are the original carpet beds. They're low laying. The flowers are huddled together. They're planted closely. And then you can see back behind some of the big blooms. And if I was taller, we could probably see the iron fountain back there somewhere. It kind of sneaks up. I have one more picture where I think you can see it a little better. But again, this was an amazing picture someone gave us, and it's too beautiful not to use, even though it's not great quality. Yeah, there's the iron fountain. Again, another picture that lacks in quality, but really shows this was the original fountain. Now we have a stone fountain. This was the original iron fountain. You can see all the paths up and all the beautiful carpet beds. So this whole area is at the south end of the park, and we call it the Stone Fountain because it's replaced by the Stone Fountain and the Old World Gardens. And we put that name on them. I don't know what they were maybe originally called, but we call them the Old World Gardens, representing the old world of Vander Veer. And we still plant them to look mostly that way. We still have that same type of look. The fountain did fall into disrepair. It was brought back once, and it fell into disrepair again. Then it was replaced with a stone fountain, which also fell into disrepair. And the stone, I mean, that was for years that we didn't have any kind of fountain there. And then in 2004, that was one of the Friends of Vander Veer major efforts to work with the city to get that stone fountain back. This is my very favorite picture. This is a postcard, and many of my older donors have this postcard, ironically, and I've had several people give it to me over the years. But this is the promenading at Vander Veer. And my donors will tell me about going to church, coming home, and still staying gussied up to go spend Sunday afternoon at Vander Veer, walking around and talking. And so I feel like, you just really can see how beautiful it was. We say that the height of the era of Vander Veer was the 1920s. Everything had been planted, plotted, designed, put into fruition and enjoyed before the Depression came along. So when we are designing, when we are working on current projects, we're always looking at that 1920s park design, that early era. But I just love this postcard. Yes? I believe that this is north because I believe that, I thought that when I look at it close up that I can see one of the conservatories back there, the greenhouse. Yeah. I think if you look at the top of the picture there, you can kind of see the glass. I just don't have anything to point. But I think up there you can see the glass to see that would be the north end. The conservatory was always at the north end of the park, it's directly at Central Park Avenue, if any of you know the Quad Cities. But so I think that is where it is. But one of my dear donors, I mean, he would just talk about all week being so excited to go on Sunday and promenade. And they would use the word promenade. We'd go promenade at Vander Veer. So like I said, then we started to get some streetcars, a trolley. Then eventually they built the park superintendent's home, and he lived across the street from Vander Veer, the park superintendent. And the park superintendent lived there for many, many years. In fact, even when I was a young girl living in Davenport, the park superintendent still lived across the street from Vander Veer. So they built the park superintendent's house. Now it is our office, and I think I have a picture of that. Then here's where the history started to change. Our dear park superintendent, he was very beloved, Mr. Vander Veer. When he passed away in 1911, then they changed the name of the park to Vander Veer after him. And he was also a part of the first Park Board of Commissioners. So he got the name, and you know, I think it's neat that the park is named after him. It would be interesting to still, in our day and age, to still call it Central Park, just seeing the history that we keep it to. But he was beloved, and he did live right across the street and really had a major influence on the park and what it was. I just commenting, I'll come back to this, but the word botanical was never added to the park until 1994, and that's when the Friends had gotten involved and really was doing some advocacy on that this is, we have beautiful city parks in Davenport, you know, and all different kinds of parks, but really at that time, wanting to differentiate that this was the Botanic Park in the city. So in 1994, they added the word Botanical Park to the name of the park. That is the official name of the park now. You still see it both ways. You'll see people say Vander Veer Park, and then I'll remind them it's Vander Veer Botanical Park. I just like this picture. These are just two men working in the park. Just shows the difference in equipment. I should put a picture of what our guys look like today, but you know, we do still, our guys still, and gals, our people still wear pants and long sleeves for city safety. And so they're hot. They have their long sleeves on still. So in 1955, a new conservatory was built post-Depression, and that conservatory is our current structure now. It was 1955. We did an addition in the 1980s. It would be hard for the public to see it. It's on the back side of the small addition to the structure, but that is what we have now. And then in 2004, we restored our stone building, which is across the street by our office. And I'll show you that building, and you can see some of that. The stone building used to be a greenhouse, and they planted across the street, and then they brought things over. And so I'll show you that in a minute. But the conservatory that we have now, you know, is in effect pretty out of date. It's from 1955 with some improvements in the 80s. So we really lack, our horticulturists would tell you that we really lack some of the new technologies for being able to raise and grow and make our plants what they want them to be. And all that being said, I think they're stunning. But as far as like growing curtains to darken the greenhouses, to be able to help time the growing, they put a lot of effort in to make the growing work on a very old-fashioned premises. They do a really good job. So here's our stone building. This is across the street from the park. It's to the north of the park. And so if you do look closely, you can see there's little, I'm pointing to one right now, there's just little triangles of how this was actually a greenhouse. And so then over the years, they filled it in and made it into more of a building. Over the years, I mean, this building is really fragile. The floor underneath, they had to redo the floor, and I believe it was actually used for horse carriages even before it was used for greenhouses. So it's a beautiful little building. We used to hold classes in it, but then it had to be restored a little bit more. So now a lot of it is just our storage, but it's such a unique building. And again, our city does such a nice job of saying, no, that building stays, and using it for what we can use it for. And the Friends of Vander Veer came along. So in the 1970s, 1980s, we really felt, not me personally, but we the Friends, really started to see, I guess I would say concerned citizens started to see what we were all seeing maybe, you know, just things changing, a lot going on, a lot of activity in the park, and especially at nighttime, not preferred activity going on in the park. So at that, there was a short period of time in the park where you could enter the park from the south end and the north end. So it made it kind of a go-through, and that was causing problems with traffic and bad behavior, and people could just come right through. So eventually we lost that south end entrance because it really is safer now to just be able to enter from the north side, and you make a loop and you come back out, rather than where motorcycles and cars were really just back and forth. So a concerned group of citizens kind of looked and said the park isn't safe enough. Maybe the city's not doing enough at that time. And that it had been a botanic park and it was kind of losing some of those features. So the Friends was born, and that was in 1992. We're actually turning 30 this year, 30 years of the Friends of Vander Veer. And at that time, really one of their goals was a new conservatory. So, here we are 30 years later. So we're working on it. We actually are getting serious now about really working on a conservatory in some fashion. But their goals were a conservatory and improved botanic conditions, improved safety for the park. And I really can't say enough about this first group of 5 or 6 people who really worked so hard to advocate for the park and to make sure that it did bring back more of those botanic things, that they did make it safer. And there was a time when I would say the Friends was really, now our partnership is so good, we don't have to advocate as hard. We're all on the same page and sharing the same mission. But I think there was a time where the Friends really was advocating for those things very strongly. Not that the city didn't agree, but just sometimes you got to have those, kind of advocates right in there. So the Friends was born in 1992. And like I told you, in 1994, then we got Botanic added to the name of the park and really started pushing forward with making this a botanic park. We are a 501c3. We are a partner to the city. And so I don't work for the city, like I said, but I partner with the city. So I work in a building on city grounds, and I work with the horticulture staff every day. And it's just a really beautiful partnership. I would call it a very unique partnership to what I've seen with other nonprofits. I am raising the money for our projects even as they're spending the money for the projects. I'm constantly raising and giving and raising and giving. We don't have a grant process where we have them approve a project with us. We are raising it and we're giving it right out to them to use what they want to use it for. We're on the same page with things. They tell me what projects we're doing. I might push them a little bit like, hey, have you seen this? Like, well, the Grand LA beds. I thought, oh, those Grand LA beds, they've been beautiful for years, but the trees started getting bigger. And as the trees started getting bigger, these sun beds kind of needed to become shade beds. And so, then we gave extra money to that. And, then that was a project that they worked on. Or I will help them by going to write a grant for that. I did get some grant money from the Tri-City Garden Club to help with that project. So the Friends keys right into the city. I work directly with the city staff, not just like the administrative city staff. I work directly with the horticulturists who are doing the planting, and we work side by side to decide what we want in the park and how we're going to fund it. And it's really a beautiful partnership. I love it. I love being able to tell a donor that when they send a check, we're about to order the roses, and they're going right through to order those roses. So it's a really beautiful partnership. I'm the only staff person. I am a paid staff person. We try to do it a lot of different ways. We need to have someone who's there actually manning things. So it works well. We do a lot of memorials in the park. Those go through the Friends, and the memorials are very popular because it is such a beautiful park. We also do several fundraisers. The garden walk was one of ours that we had done for years. We haven't done that one in a couple of years, but that's what started us. I would say that the Friends Garden Walk was really a key starting point to having people know what the Friends were. But now we have major fundraisers. The plant sale is one of our very major fundraisers, and I would encourage you to come. It's the last weekend of April, and our plants are grown by our volunteers, and we grow really unique things. It's not just petunias and daisies. We have very unique plants. Some of our plants are Vander Veer plants that we take cuttings from and grow to offer to people. So I always tell people it's like they're getting to take a piece of Vander Veer home, which is really, really neat for people to be able to buy one of their favorite plants from Vander Veer. So we do fundraisers. We do a great fundraiser I'll tell you about called Brides Bingo, which has nothing to do with horticulture at all. And we get young women to come in and play bingo, and we give prizes for their weddings. And that is a hugely popular event. It's a lot of fun for us because it's just outside of our normal audiences. We get these 20-somethings in there, and we get veils and groom's rings and DJs and photographers. We get those as our prizes, and then the women play bingo and win these prizes for their weddings. So that's one of our big fundraisers, but that doesn't always interest our core audiences. For our core audiences, of course, our plant sale. And we do some other things. We do a bulb sale, a poinsettia sale. We like to sell some of the things that people would see right in the park. So again, that there's some beautiful tulips that people love, and then we sell those, and people can have, feel like they're having those tulips at their house. So we are a fundraising sidekick to the city's staff. And we don't pay for city staff. We don't pay for labor. We don't pay for equipment. We fund the bling, is what I like to say. We fund all the beauty, all the flowers. Almost every flower that's purchased is paid for by the Friends. And we also fund education programs. We do really nice education initiatives. It's a win. I mean, and we do get a lot of calls, a lot of people asking us how we do our partnership. It's a very nice partnership. And the city staff is very high quality. They're very well trained. They're the leads are all horticulturists or biology degrees, and they really know what they're doing. And they have a lot of great ideas, and it's neat for them because we'll fund it. If they have a great idea of something they want to do, a project or an experiment or, new varieties, we say, go ahead. We give them the money. So, and the city is very good to them as well and recognizes what a gem Vander Veer is. This is our Friends office, and you can see the stone building is right behind it. So there's that stone building. Here's the Friends office. If you imagine Central Park is right here, and then the conservatory is right here in the rest of the park. So we're directly across the street. And so that's where I work and where our horticulture staff can come over. The head horticulturist is there with his office, and then anything else they need is in there. So some of our big restoration efforts from the Friends happened right away. And at that time, really the Friends was doing a lot of the advocacy for these projects. We wanted to bring back some of these things that had long been in the park. So the first thing that we did, we incorporated in 1992 and did a lot of fundraisers. But our first big project was bringing the Grand LA back to the park that had been gone for years. And that is the walkway that goes basically from the conservatory down the center of the park to the stone fountain. It's a brick walkway. It's very wide, no cars. It's a walking walkway. And we planted 100 trees along the alley. And like I said, they were small baby trees. And so then we had all these beautiful sun gardens going up the alley. But now we've had to shift those to shade gardens because the trees are really growing. So that's a beautiful area in the park. That was in 2001-ish, 2-ish. And then in 2004, we brought the stone fountain back, and that was amazing. And actually, that's right when I started working for the Friends, was in 2004 when we were finishing the fundraising for that project. And the city did about half, and the Friends did about half, and we were able to bring the fountain on. And it hadn't been on in about 20 years. So it was really, now we take that for granted because it's been on for another 20 years. But we went a long time without that stone fountain. The Old World Gardens, like I said, then that in those era, in the 80s, 90s, there in the 2000s, we really brought back the beauty of the stone, or excuse me, of the Old World Gardens. Oops. There we go. Okay, so this was the night that we brought back the stone fountain. So I love that picture. It's from 2004. We turned it on at night for the first time. We had thousands of community members on hand to see it. So that was really neat. And the city has a huge commitment to this fountain. So we are grateful for their support because the Friends could not really, it's not really in our budget to keep up this fountain. We helped raise the money to get it there, but it just has ongoing maintenance, and they've changed the lights to LED so they're more efficient and do a better job, but they have done a lovely job of keeping this fountain up. And people come all summer long to see the fountain. And people are sad when we turn it off, even though it's starting to snow and it's October, they say, why did you turn off the fountain? So our outdoor gardens, these are all done by our horticulture staff, and we have 3 horticulture leads, and we have many seasonals who help throughout the year. We have our All-American Rose selections. Our Rose Garden is amazing. Well, and then we have our Rose Garden, and then we have our All-American selections that's right near it. So we have two gardens right there. We have our Hosta Glade, our Children's Sculpture Garden, which is beautiful. Then the LA I just talked about along the Grand LA. We have sun gardens now. The Old World Gardens are around the stone fountain. Those are stunning. We have a beautiful conifer collection near Majestic Hope, which I'll show him. That's our Sandhill Crane statue. And this is a new collection that the Friends just funded. The Sandhill Crane is right on the corner of the park. He's beautiful. He's called Majestic Hope. He was donated by a local artist who uses trees and wood to do his artwork. But the trees were really falling apart in that area. So that's a beautiful collection that we've just funded. And then the All-American Selections Gardens, which I'll show you. But I would comment that the derecho, which we know was difficult for everybody, obviously was really difficult for Vander Veer. And I think we lost about 75 trees. And some of them, were very old, 100-year-old trees. I don't touch on the trees in my presentation, and I should. The trees are maintained by the forestry department, not our horticulturists, although our horticulturists do maintain them and recommend to forestry. They have, again, a beautiful partnership of selecting the trees and working together to have what trees are in the park. But we had to put many new trees in after the derecho. If you ever come to Vander Veer, we have a beautiful tree map that is just the trees in the park. So if you're into trees, there are a lot of different varieties, and they are really, really wonderful. And the Friends, like I said, the Friends do fund trees for that, so we are a part of it. It's just not a part that I am as involved in. But the Majestic Hope was looking lonely when we lost some trees over there after the derecho, and our head horticulturist did a really nice job of picking some very little conifers that will get big over the years, and that will be neat to watch. So here are today's Old World gardens. They are lovely. This picture is a couple of years ago. We change them slightly every year. And Tim, our new head horticulturist, he's been here about 2 years. Well, he's worked here about 10 years, but he just became in charge after some of our longtime staff retired. So he's having a little bit of fun tweaking them and making them his own. But you can see that lovely carpet bed style and then some of the big blooms in the middle. The stone fountain is cut off here, but here's the stone fountain. And these gardens are all the way around, and they mirror each other. These gardens match the ones on that side. And then I would tell you too, this promenade, that sidewalk up above that comes across, that's called the promenade. And just beyond the promenade is where the music pavilion would be. If we had brought the music pavilion back, it would be just right there. That's one of our beautiful star beds. And this is just a nice close-up of all the beautiful cannas. It's gorgeous what they do. And it's pretty funny because, I am an amateur. I'm in marketing and fundraising. I like to garden. I have learned a lot, but I'm a fundraiser. So my coworkers are gardeners. And so we do have fun disagreements because I think these plants look gorgeous in October, but they want them to come down. And so we always have the debate about the homecoming pictures because the stone fountain is hugely popular. Hundreds and hundreds of people in September and October every weekend for homecoming and weddings, of course, as well. So we always have the debate of when these come down. And they'll say, they're dead, they're dead. They're beautiful. So it's all, I guess, in the eye of the beholder, but we keep them as long as we can. And then our beautiful stone fountain in the middle. This is the old sundial. This was a really cool feat for our horticulture staff to bring back. Years ago, we had a berm at the south end of the park. The stone fountain would be, well, right at the edge. I don't know how this picture, I think the stone fountain would be, right back here. And there's the Old World Gardens. And then the sundial was here. And it went away for years and years, and there was a berm, and it went away. And so the horticulture staff just brought it back. And it's really cool. This is it. This is the sundial. And if you come in the summer, it will tell the time. The numbers are down here at the bottom, and it does tell time. I just was asking for something to be made. They're going to look at it this summer. I thought it would be neat if you could step up, because it's hard to see when you're at floor level, at ground level. So they're looking at maybe some kind of a step so people could step up and see the shadow, and it does tell the time. In the spring, the Friends funds over 2,000 blooms, and it's my favorite time of year in the park. These are stunning. We do every kind of tulip and daffodil and hyacinths. We have beautiful blooms all over the park. I have to advocate, but I get shot down, but sometimes it looks too Iowa State-like to me because they do a lot of red and yellow, and a lot of them are Iowa State graduates, so we kind of have our debates, but here's a beautiful red and yellow garden bed that's beautiful. These are right in front of the conservatory. On the right are in front of the conservatory, and then on the left are in our enabling garden, which I'll talk about. But we put them all throughout the park. They're lovely, and honestly, the way that we plant in the park, we plant for the season, and then we're done. So because they have to make room in the beds for the next series of plants, these are all replaced by other plants. They don't go empty, and they're lovely. So they will pull these back up. And so our public, gets frustrated. But the Friends funsies, we're not, they're not wasting city money or anything, but the Friends, or the public was getting sad. They started to pick up on it. So now we sell these. After we're done with them, we pull them back out and we sell them for a nominal fee, and people like to come and get them and take them home, and people have had good luck. We've only been doing that a few years, and we just sell them just $5. I mean, it's very nominal, but the people will take them home and plant them and see, and they've been coming up the next year. So that's been kind of cool. So again, you're kind of getting to take a piece of Vander Veer home in a lot of ways. But the city staff, they're gardening for the next season. So they have to have those beds completely free. They can't just leave them underneath for the next year. They have to have them completely free to put the next collection in. This is a really neat garden. This is our All-American Gardens, and this is right outside the conservatory and near the Rose Garden. This is one that I had in my bullet list. These are, the All-America Society sends us these plants, or what they are, and these are like the up-and-coming plants for the year, the popular plants, the new plants, and so they give us this list, and we plant this garden so that people can see what's coming out and what's cool, and people really like this. Some years they've had a thing where you can vote on which new plant you like the best. And so that's through All-America, and we have the information up. But this path weaves up to the Rose Garden and then to the LA. So this is a really nice stop for people to see these All-America selection gardens. They're really pretty. This is our Rose Garden. You really should come see the Rose Garden. It's really in best bloom in June. It is stunning. We have about 70 varieties of roses. This is where the Friends has really made a nice impact over the years. There were years where, this has been the beautiful thing about the Friends, because we all know there's years where the city budgets are tight. And so there have been years that the Friends really helped let the garden grow during a year where maybe that wouldn't be the priority. So we bought a lot of new kinds of roses, and they do like to experiment a little bit. We've had some that come in and they don't do as well, some that do better. It's a beautiful garden. The little tiny fountain, this fountain does not have a name. It's just another one of our small fountains. Here's some of our blooms close up. Moving inside our conservatory displays, we have, one of the things that I like the best is we have ever-changing displays. Our gardens in the conservatory are not permanently planted. We don't have permanent beds. It's just a big concrete room. So whereas if you went, I'm sorry, I don't know what you have in Iowa City as far as how that compares, but I can say at the Botanic Center in Rock Island across the river, they have permanent beds. So they can't be as flexible, but those have their pluses also. We have complete flexibility. Everything in our conservatory is in its own pot, and they move them around, they redesign things every year, and so that makes it really cool. As things bloom, they come out, and as they die, they go away and something new comes out. And I love that if you come into the conservatory and then you come in 2 weeks later, you're going to see something different. It's not a static show, it is ever changing. We start each year with our I call it Valentine's Day show, but it's our spring blooms. But it comes out about Valentine's Day. We take January, just next weekend we'll shut it down. Right now we're in our poinsettia display. We'll shut down and they'll take about 3 weeks. It's a really neat time in the conservatory. They'll repot everything, they'll do maintenance. Some of those trees along the back really get touched well once a year during that big, deep cleaning that they do. So they'll close for about January 15th to February 15th is when they're closed. And so we'll open for Valentine's Day, and I love it. Everything is pink and red and beautiful, and when we're tired of February and we're tired of being cold, the conservatory is wonderful. So they'll switch those blooms out, and then as they have daffodils start, they'll bring in the daffodils. They'll just keep switching out all the blooms. The Easter lily show, again, one of our long traditions. In the summer, same thing. They'll keep bringing things out as things bloom. The daisies, they'll go into more hardy plants in the conservatory in the summer because the conservatory is hot. So we have a lot of tropicals in there. Coleus, things that are hardy and can stand that warm summer sun. Then we move into the chrysanthemum show, which I will talk about in November. It is a short show, and it's our most amazing show. And then our Poinsettia Lights, which is going on right now. This is a really cool part of our tradition. These are 100-year traditions. These mum shows, they started, the Poinsettia show, I had an article from the Poinsettia show from like 1918. These shows have been around forever. So they're really neat traditions that we hold on to. Here's some old pictures of the shows. It's really neat. This is that first conservatory. It's much more narrow than our conservatory now. Here's today's show. The mum show's my favorite. So well, they're all my favorite. They're all beautiful, right? They're all unique. But I love the mum show because of what our staff does. They do this very unique standards. These are mum standards where they grow one bloom on a plant. They do this all year. They're growing right now. They've started them for next year. When the show is over, they restart their cuttings for the next year. So these are grown on a standard. We have regular mums too, but these standard mums are highly unique. You're not gonna find them very many places. And our staff really has a commitment. They're painstaking. They're growing, if you can see, there's one bloom on every stem, yeah. Here's Tim, he's our head horticulturist, and look at how tall that one is. I like that one. You can see him with that tall mum. So this is a very short show. He starts bringing them out in October, November, and then this goes until Thanksgiving, if they last. And then we do Christmas. Just showing you the windmill. That's inside our conservatory, and that is one of our known features. People love our windmill. We do a lot of topiaries. I just want to show you that one. We have a lot of fun with that. We have monkeys that hang in the conservatory and some other things. I thought he was cute. Here's our spring show and into our summer show, just showing you a couple of those pictures. But you can see on the left that those beautiful, what look like to me as Valentine's plants. So I do love February in the conservatory especially. This is our conservatory today for Christmas at night for the holidays. We have had really nice partnership with the city on this as well because the city is supplying more and more lights. And I mean, I remember even 5 or 6 years ago reminding everyone how wonderful Vander Veer was. And now I feel like I barely have to remind anybody anymore. People know and they want to fund things. And the city has put in these beautiful lights. This is the Grand LA. It goes up to the stone fountain. At the very back of those lights are the stone fountain. And the city put all these lights up. These are not funded by the Friends. The city put all these beautiful lights up, and people love it. People are coming to our park all the time. And I feel like what this did is it made our park 4 seasons, whereas our park really felt like 3 seasons to people, even though we know the poinsettia show is going on and the chrysanthemum show is going on. It's like people just stop coming when kids go back to school in September or whatever, you know, we just see our attendance go down. And now it's like people are coming through all winter. And when they come and they see the LA, then they're hopping inside to the conservatory. So our mission to provide advocacy and resources and education about horticulture, it's really alive and well because these people that come in the conservatory, a lot of them don't garden, they don't know anything about plants, and they come in and they're surprised and they're amazed and they're asking questions and they're coming to our plant sale and buying plants to take home. So we love the engagement and that it's really laying the groundwork for our mission. And you know, we just want these kids right now, I know we all can agree, we just want these kids who are inside and on their phones and playing video games, we want them to remember, you know, the beauty of the outdoors. And so I think a lot of these lights in the winter have reminded people, when you drive by on Brady Street or Harrison, these streets, this is in the very middle of the park. And you drive by in the winter now, it used to be black, it used to be dead. And now you drive and you look and you see all these lights and people are just coming in at an all-time high. We have more visitors than ever. So it's really great. Some new additions in 2012, this is not as new anymore, but this is our enabling garden. It's a beautiful garden that's handicap accessible. And this was a really cool thing when we did this. This was a partnership with the Friends and the city, but mostly funded by the city. Now the Friends funds the flowers in it. We bring in people of all levels. We have standing gardens, waist-high gardens, wheelchair accessible gardens, so that people can learn and grow, and we do grow food now. I mean, the pandemic, you know, not as much this year, but we have up until these last 2 years, we've grown food out there and let the people that come and work in there be able to harvest that food. And we don't do a lot with actual food. We do more plants and flowers, you know, but this has really been a neat thing. Then we have a new gravel garden in the conservatory parking lot, which is kind of neat. We're always trying to do education, show people if they don't have good grass structure, they can do a gravel garden and that the plants will still grow in there. It's kind of neat, it's different. This is our enabling garden, and you can see this is in the spring when those beautiful tulips are there, and those are ones that we sell in our fundraiser because people love those. This is later on in the summer, so you can see they take out the tulips and then they replace them with summer flowers. Our education programs, I take a lot of pride in the education programs because, again, I think people who don't know gardening might look and say, oh, what is there even to do over there? You know, I'll just throw my Frisbee. They miss the botanic connection. So our education programs was something I personally advocated for, and we had done a couple in 2004 or 5, and then we brought them back in 2011. And again, it's a huge partnership with the city, and they're really good for us. Every year we have a theme, Monopoly or Clue or a movie. This year it was a travel theme. With the pandemic, I have to say, we weren't able to do as much as we usually do, but we have signage through the park. We have a book or a brochure. They're family oriented or couples. It's a date night or grandma and the kids, and it takes people through the park to find different places in the park and do different things, and they learn about plants. And we have families who came in and they just were gonna feed the ducks. That's all they were there to do. The next thing you know, they're doing our theme and they learned something about horticulture. So that's a really neat tie. I really do love the themes, again, for advancing our mission. The winter themes, we have a little winter theme. I'll show you every winter we do a theme too. We do a scavenger hunt in the conservatory, people like those. There's our My Little Wheelbarrow program. That's our Signature Friends program. We started that years and years ago. It's drop-in, it's near the playground. Again, we're just trying to catch people, again, the heart of our mission, you know, to spread horticulture and love of gardening. And we just catch people when they're coming in. They've got their kids in their strollers. We do it every Wednesday in the summer and say, hey, come and plant these wheelbarrows up, and then the next week they can come back and water them and watch them grow. So we have a lot of programs like that. This is just about our themes. I know I've been talking a long time, so I won't take too long, but our themes are really good stuff. Summer themes and then the winter themes too. Our last theme in 2020, Fantastic Plants and Where to Find Them, that was a play on Harry Potter. That was a really cool one too. And then our 2020 winter theme was the Roaring Twenties. This year we did a gingerbread theme. That was cool too. But I kept these pictures up. These are from last year, but I kept them up for you to see because this year, like I said, with the pandemic, we just didn't do quite as much. But we did in 2020. We already had it planned before the pandemic, so we went ahead, and this was the Fantastic Beasts. And this is the beautiful signage that we fund, so that as they go through the park, they're usually solving a mystery or a problem or a crossword puzzle, something they're going to get a prize for. This is our Christmas display this year, Poinsettia Lights. We did the Gingerbread Village at Vander Veer. We had about 5 or 6 of these little gingerbread houses, and this boy kind of stole my heart because he brought his elf on the shelf. He had to bring the elf on the shelf in glass so that he couldn't touch them because he loses his magic if he touches them. So the elf on the shelf is in a glass jar, and he toured Vander Veer. So it's pretty adorable. Here's our Christmas display, our holiday poinsettia lights. We have over 500 poinsettias. They are funded by the Friends, but grown and cared for by the city, which is our usual partnership. We fund and they grow and make all the magic happen. You can see a couple of the gingerbread houses. So we change that every year, what the theme is, but we had some gingerbread houses. We always have big conifers that we use as Christmas trees. You can see a couple of those on the side. We ask people from the community to donate their conifers from their yards, and sometimes Menards will help donate some to us too. Menards used to have a Christmas tree lot behind them in Davenport, and so they would supply those too. But we go out in the community and get those trees and bring them, which is kind of neat. These are just some pictures from our display, and I left in some from the year before too. This is always stunning, and the horticulture staff just does a beautiful job of putting together these displays, but you can see like a palm tree right next to the Christmas tree, which is why you love that it's a tropical house. This is from 2 years ago. That was beautiful also. So they do something different every year. Just showing you the prep work to hang everything. It's kind of neat to see it happen. So if you were in the conservatory at the middle of November, right when we take down the Mum Show, or again in January, you really see it all torn apart, and it's kind of neat. At times they call it closed to the public, so it's not always guaranteed that you can come in, but it's neat to see them do the things that make the magic happen, and it's just really pretty every year. So we change it every single year, we being they change it every single year. This is kind of a neat project. This is the Rose Garden in the winter. We have worked with some high school students to put in some neat elements, and these are the snowflakes that West High and Davenport did one year. There was also a present that they did that was in a past picture that I forgot to point out. So just a lot. This is a great example of the lights. This is our pergola that in the summer is just beautiful and lovely, and it's right in the middle of our rose garden. So our horticulture fans love it, but in the winter, it's magic. And so more and more family pictures, couples pictures are right here in Vander Veer. We just love it, and I'll show you a good one. This is one of the engagements this winter. This is my husband's friend. He said, "Where should I ask her?" We said, "Vander Veer." So this is, but there are many neat special moments. This is my girls. I decided to show you. My husband is a fireman. My daughters have lived in this park, and I started working here when the one on the right is the University of Iowa student, and she's 18 now, and I started working at Vander Veer when she was 1. And I thought, I'll just work here for a few years part-time, and then I'll do something else. But I just love it, and then I worked on a staff, and then I was promoted to the director. But they used to call it their park. And so for a long time, it really was helping them understand that everybody could be in their park. So are we going to our park? So the future, Tranquility Garden is the project I mentioned earlier. It's going to be really neat. It is going to happen. It's this beautiful stone bridge. I don't know why I don't have a slide. I'll have to get one. But the stone bridge, it's just naked. It's just this bridge over nothing. And the last couple of years, I was advocating to our horticulture staff, like, could we do anything? Because it's just a bridge and nothing. And so then Tim started putting in these beautiful gardens around it, and now I said stop, because now it's starting to look so good that I still need our campaign for our bigger project. I said, you're making it look too beautiful already, but it's going to be even more beautiful. You might drive by and say, well, it looks fine, but it was nothing. And so we're really beautifying that area, and then now we'll do this big daffodil bed and some prairie gardens around it, and some little vignettes of gardens around it. It's going to be lovely. And then again, our faraway project, but needs to become nearer, is our conservatory, as it really is not propelling us into the future as easily as it could be. Just giving you our hours. I do hope you come by. It's free admission. The city does not charge anything. If you do like what you see and you make a donation, it goes directly to the Friends. The city does not take that money. So that's nice. They give it to the Friends, and then we buy plants with it. So it's really good. This is my email. I'll leave this up as we go to break. We're going to do a break and do questions, yes, and so I'll be happy to take questions and visit with you. But you can always email me with your questions, with your thoughts. I left a membership brochure and a brochure about Vander Veer, not because I'm trying to sell you membership, but just so you can get a feel for the different things we do at the park. So, okay. I think, oh, thanks. Yeah.
That was great.
Oh, good.
Okay, remember you can bring your questions up to the front desk, and I want to point out that the library has put a lot of books up that are about planting, and if you would like, you can check those out by taking them into the main library. So we'll take a little break. There's coffee and water in the back. Okay, we're going to get started again with some questions, but before we do, we want to present Natasha with one of Project Green's mug.
Thank you. That's really kind of you.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
There's an idea for you for fundraising.
A little marketing idea. That's really neat. Thank you very much. I'm really enjoying being here, so thank you for having me.
Okay. So I'm going to let you read the questions and answer those, and then we're going to do some drawing for prizes.
Okay, perfect. These were the online questions, or from the...
These are questions that people in the room...
Oh, okay, or in the room too. Okay.
One online.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, thank you all for staying around and for hearing. I know it's a long talk, but I hope you enjoyed it. I was going to put my email. I think my email's on some of those pieces of literature too, but feel free to email me if you have anything else that you want to ask about. This first question is about how do we manage the deer and the rabbits in the park. That's definitely valid. I know that squirrels are an issue too for us in the park, and actually our biggest issue are the ducks. That's really a big issue. So I'm going to ask about this, about the deer. I haven't seen that many deer. I haven't heard the horticulture staff talk about that many deer, but rabbits and squirrels for sure. The Rose Garden is an issue too, because the animals that we do get, like the Rose Garden, and they come in there and get the roses. And then that's just difficult. We do have some memorials in that area. And so then, of course, people who have a memorial for a rose, and then the roses are all messed up. So that can be difficult. But I know that they try to, they're always safe with the animals. They try to always use products that wouldn't hurt an animal. And I think beyond that, there is just a degree of knowing it could happen. It could happen. So, but I'm going to ask about the deer. I haven't seen any deer. The ducks are hard. The ducks get in our lagoon, and even though the ducks are charming and the swan, they're charming and they're kind of sweet. And we used to have a machine on the warming house because the lagoon used to offer the ice skating. And years ago, we had a little we still have a little warming house where people could come in and change their ice skates, which I did that as a girl. And there's a fireplace in there, and really very quaint and lovely. Well, now then we had a machine on there to put in your quarter and get corn to feed the ducks. And we had to take it down this year because our ducks were at an all-time high. And, we are botanic. We are not necessarily, we're not a zoo, we're not an animal, we don't have staff to care for them. And then for this winter, when people want to ice skate, the ducks make it so that the ice doesn't freeze because they keep too much warmth on the ice. So I know that's actually, if you asked our horticulture staff, they would tell you that the ducks are the biggest issue. We don't want to be unkind to them. We don't want to be unfriendly. But they finally did shoo them the other day. They finally got most of them to leave so that our ice can freeze so we can offer ice skating. So that's our big animal issue. This is a great question. I will look at this. Have we considered applying for accreditation as an arboretum through ARBnet? I'm going to look at this. The city did get accredited as a Parks and Recreation Department, so that's great for them. That's a wonderful accolade, and that took a lot of work, but that's more as a Parks and Recreation Department, and they do a wonderful job with all 50 parks, but I've never really thought about looking specifically at the horticulture part or accreditation that way. So I will. We consider ourselves a museum. I didn't mention most of our plants are labeled, not all of them. That's just due to staffing over the years, but we've tried to kind of make roads back with that, and we're doing better labeling all of our plants. We do have an issue that we're not gated. So sadly, our hosta glade, we get hosta stolen in our hosta glade. And so we know when a hosta is stolen that was not some teenager that just wanted to steal, that we know that could be a plant lover that took a plant. So that really crushes our heart. But I know that was a limitation when we were doing some work in 2012 and 13. We were doing some work on some of the more official things, and that was an issue that we're not gated because we can't protect our collections. So there was discussions of gating at least part of the park, at least the part down near the conservatory, which is where our Hosta Glade and our Rose Garden and more of our collections are. But our culture of this park to be able to be a free walking in city park was really at odds with any of it being gated. So that's kind of the background or the issues within accreditation, I think, would be that our collection is not secure. So, but I am going to look at that. I appreciate these comments because they give me things to think about for improvement. Okay, so these questions are somewhat the same. Do friends have a volunteer for gardening work in the park, or is it all city? And then this one is, do you have volunteers in addition to staff? And I should have talked about our volunteers. I'm sorry. Yes, the Friends organization, aside from me, is all volunteers, and we have many, many volunteers. Things have changed a little bit. We used to have a gift shop inside the conservatory, and that gift shop definitely had a big volunteer core, and that was where we put a lot of our volunteers. We do have gardeners who volunteer. The Tri-City Garden Club is one of our partners. The Hosta Society is one of our partners. They come in and they do certain projects to help maintain things. But our own Friends members also help. We have Friends members that want to garden and want to be out there, and they team up with the horticulture staff to be out in the park doing different projects. We also, the biggest thing that our volunteers do is they prepare for our plant sale. Our plant sale preparation starts in about October, and it goes all the way through April until we have our sale. So they're planting weekly for several hours, and that's that's a great volunteer for us because it helps us raise the money. We have thousands of plants that we sell at our plant sale, and it's our biggest fundraiser. And like I said, they're not brought in. They're cuttings from our collection. And a few of our board members, which I do have a board of directors, and a few of our board members have gardens in their own homes that they also bring us plants. So that's a lot of the gardening that our volunteers do is for us, for our fundraiser, but they also do help maintain the park too. So if you're interested in, well, you're Iowa City people, but if you're interested in volunteering, if you're interested in a tour and coming down, you could always email me and we can set something like that up for you. One of our limitations is that we don't really have an events person. So we don't really have that automatic go-to person if you wanted a tour, but we can always get you hooked up with somebody.